Now, as a youngster and even as an adolescent attending these ceremonies, it was difficult, if not impossible, for me to relate to that underlying purpose of this annual ceremony. Certainly, children of my generation knew both of World War II and the Korean War. Many, if not most of us, had fathers and in some cases mothers who had served during those conflicts. We had seen the movies, both with and without John Wayne. We had studied certain aspects of those wars in school. We had heard the stories. And on occasion, some of us would even don parts of our parents' service uniforms while we playfully enacted those conflicts, as strange as that may now seem. We all knew neighbors and relatives who had fought in those wars. In our neighborhood, in addition to the many men and fathers who served during World War II, we had at the end of our block our neighbor Mr. Klaus, who served during World War I and would on occasion wear his doughboy uniform. We had our next door neighbor Vern, who served during the Korean War. And we even had a neighbor and mother of 7 who served as an officer in the Waves, the Women's Naval Reserve Unit during the Second World War. But still, as a younger person, it was hard to relate to that period of time and the sacrifices that were made both by those who served and particularly those who died. After all, to someone much younger, that was something that occurred in ancient times, a whole 10 to 20 years or so ago. A time period, as we all know now, was simply a blink of an eye to our parents' generation, much as that time period is to us today. And certainly while we could understand what it means to have been killed in battle, it was difficult to understand the meaning of that sacrifice by someone we personally never knew. As a result, for me in my younger years, these Memorial Day services were more about the parades, the bands, the recitations, and the singing than the underlying purpose of this annual tradition. Honoring the memory of those who died in defense of this country and recommitting ourselves to the ideals they died for. But certain events fundamentally changed my understanding of what these Memorial Day services really stand for. A certain period of time caused me to appreciate the ultimate sacrifice made by those we honor here each year. I have had the privilege of visiting both the Civil War battlefield at Gettysburg and some years later the beaches of Normandy, along with the Normandy American Cemetery at Coville. It is nearly impossible to stand on the fields of Gettysburg or the sands of Omaha Beach or among the thousands of monuments in that cemetery and not have a humbling appreciation for what transpired there and the sacrifices made there. But the single most significant event that years before caused me and much of my generation to have a much clearer understanding of the meaning of Memorial Day was the war in Vietnam. Unlike our parents' war, that war was not ancient history. It was happening in current time. And it wasn't the movies. It was broadcast nearly live into our homes every evening on the nightly news. And it did not involve the ultimate sacrifices by strangers we never knew. Those fighting, many of whom are present today, and particularly those dying in that war, were members of our community. Members of my generation, who walked the same streets I did and who attended the same high school I was attending, and more importantly, who I knew. These local heroes have been mentioned in past Memorial Day services here. Men like Sergeant Glenn Dean, a 1966 graduate of West Bend High School, 4 years my senior, and a popular and terrific cornet player with the high school band, killed in action on August 27, 1968. And PFC Thomas Crook, who I remember well, 3 years my senior, a 1967 graduate of West Bend High School, killed in action on February 23, 1969. And all the others referenced by Scott Mindel in his daily Facebook posts preceding this holiday. I have to believe that it is nearly impossible for someone of my generation not to have a better understanding of the meaning of Memorial Day, having lived through those times. Just as with our parents' generation, these were individuals dying in the service of their country who were very much a part of the community that honors them today. But I do have a concern. The Vietnam War is now 2 generations behind us. And although subsequent conflicts like Iraq and Afghanistan have also taken the lives of members of our community, as reflected by the Gold Star families we honor at these services, those wars will soon be ancient history to younger generations, if they are not already. One of my favorite songwriters, who is also a veteran of the U.S. Army, once wrote, "I know I never will forget what I never did know." In other words, one first has to be aware of something in order to remember it. My concern is this: how do we assure that younger generations will relate to the underlying purpose of this long-standing community tradition and not just look at Memorial Day as the 3rd day of a 3-day weekend kicking off summer? Without another major military conflict, which God willing we will not face again, how do we assure that future generations will continue to honor those who gave their lives that this nation might live? I wish I had the answer. Maybe we start by making sure that our children and our children's children at least honor this day by attending these services for the parade, the bands, the marching, and the singing, if nothing else, in the hope that someday they will ultimately make the connection as to the true reason we gather here each year. I do truly believe, however, that it is incumbent upon all of us to do our very best to attempt to assure that our children and our children's children continue to both remember those who gave their lives in defense of this country and to recommit themselves to the ideals those heroes died defending. That, in the words of Lincoln, is the great task remaining before us as we leave here today. Because if we, as a nation, fail to continue to recognize this day for what it truly represents, then we run the unforgivable risk that these honored dead shall have died in vain. I again want to thank the committee for asking me to speak here today. It is a true honor. Thanks to all of you for attending. God bless our Gold Star families. God bless all the veterans in attendance here today. You all have my utmost respect. God bless the fallen heroes we honor today. And God bless these United States. Thank you.